Time has a peculiar way of weaving memories into the very fabric of our hearts, each thread a distinct hue, some bright, others dulled by the passage of years. As I sit in the embrace of nostalgia, I can feel the weight of a decade pressing against my chest, an echo of laughter, whispers, and unfulfilled promises. In the quiet corners of my mind, the memories of my first love linger like shadows cast by a waning moon, a spectral presence in the middle of a life that has continued on without them. The silence, once a refuge, now feels like an uninvited guest, filling the spaces I thought I'd sealed. We often romanticize the past, don't we? A perfect amalgam of warmth and sweetness, misplaced in the cold light of reality. Yet within this sanctuary of remembrance lies 1,000 unspoken words, a symphony of emotions that I replay in the theater of my thoughts. The first time we met, how innocent and electric that moment was, our lives entwined like vines in a sunlit garden. Each glance we exchanged was tender yet charged with an undeniable tension, a promise of the storms and calms we would navigate together. I can see us now, two children playing at love, unaware of the complexities that awaited us, dancing on the brink of an abyss we had not yet learned how to avoid. Through the lens of time, I recall those vibrant afternoons spent lost in conversation, our laughter spilling like sunlight upon the pages of our favorite novels. The way we crafted dreams from shadows, how we believed we could conquer the world hand in hand, impervious to the challenges that life would throw our way. But life has its own rhythm, and like waves crashing upon the shore, it ebbs and flows beyond our control. The first heartbreak can be a cruel teacher, leaving students of love with lessons etched deep into their souls. And when the tide receded, I found myself marooned in the desolate landscape of what we had built. Each promise we made now scattered like leaves caught in an autumn gust. In a world that spins relentlessly forward, the echoes of those days, once bright as the dawn, began to pale, transitioning into the muted tones of bittersweet recollection. I filled the silence with new experiences, new faces. Each day unfurled with opportunities to craft a different life, one where the shadows of my past receded gradually into the backdrop. Yet every now and then, a familiar scent or lingering note in a song would claw at my heart, pulling me back into that abandoned garden, the path overgrown with unfulfilled hopes and quiet yearnings. Grief mingled with joy as I pushed forward, forging new connections, learning to live again within the confines of my own heart. I became a master of distraction, layering my life with the vibrant colors of new ambitions, friendships, and fleeting romances. My heart, once a fragile bud, began to bloom anew, albeit always tinged with a certain melancholy, a rhythm that played softly in the background. Yet as robust as these new connections felt, their roots were shallow. Every encounter seemed to carry the weight of comparison. No laughter rang out quite like ours, no conversation sparked the same intoxicating depth. Those were ghosts I entertained, lingering in the corners of my consciousness, only stirred to life in the silence of the night. And so those 10 years slipped through my fingers like grains of sand. A decade marked by the absence of a voice that once echoed my own, now reduced to a soft whisper, barely audible over the noise of a busy life. How curious it is, this duality of existence, living vibrantly while nurturing the quiet ache of a love lost. It was as if I had unknowingly constructed a barrier to guard my heart, one that shielded me while simultaneously isolating the echoes of a past that refused to fade completely. Friends often remarked how I had transformed over the years, a butterfly emerging from the cocoon of childhood, shaking off the remnants of a first love that can feel so consuming. Yet they could not witness the distant flicker in my eyes when the world became quiet. The way I observed the cities and streets around me, every corner a potential reminder of the places we once roamed. Memories would arise unbidden like the sharp scent of summer rain lifting into the air, each drop imbued with unforgotten moments of youth. As the seasons changed, so did I, growing introspective in ways I had not anticipated. I learned to engage with my past through art, weaving it into my creations, turning pain into expression. I painted, wrote, shaped sculptures out of clay, each piece a cathartic release of the emotions I had long buried. In doing so, I found catharsis in my art, an avenue to explore the landscapes of my heart, revealing the tangled roots of love interlaced with bittersweet ache. It became clear to me that while I had moved on, crafted new beginnings, I had also nurtured a garden of memories, one that became a part of me as much as my present. Through this lens, I navigated the intricacies of love and loss, teaching myself that moving on does not imply erasing the past. It is an acknowledgement that the echo of those memories remains, an indelible part of the journey. Still, the reflection of that decade of silence speaks volumes about resilience, about the layers of self-discovery woven through joy and sorrow alike. For what is it to live if not to embrace every facet of our experiences, to hold space for the past while stepping boldly into the future? And so, with each passing day, the echoes soften, blending harmoniously with the rhythm of my new life, an intricate melody of love gained, love lost, and the enduring strength found in both. The landscape may have shifted, the garden may have grown wild, but the threads of memory are forever entwined, an everlasting dance of what once was, leading gracefully into what may yet be. In the quiet spaces of memory, the echoes of laughter once intertwined with the scent of autumn leaves, telling tales of innocence lost and love forged in the fires of youth. A decade, a mere moment in the vast continuum of time, yet it stretches like a taut string, vibrating with the resonance of unspoken words and unaddressed feelings. Life, like a river, flows onward, eroding the sharp edges of pain into smooth stones of acceptance. Yet as I traversed these 10 years, I often found myself peering back into the shifting shadows of those early sunlit days. Those were days drenched in the haze of dreams, each bright encounter buoyed by the thrill of discovery, two souls swirling together in a dance of possibility. It is the sun set on our youth, eclipsing moments that perhaps had been too perfect to last. I began to understand the subtle art of letting go. The memories became like photographs pinned to the walls of my heart, fading yet refusing to disintegrate entirely, holding the essence of who I once was but never truly embodying the man I had become. With each passing year, I learned the delicate craft of moving beyond, a practice revered in ancient texts yet often overlooked in the modern maelstrom of fleeting relationships. It spoke of the necessity of shedding the skin of the past in favor of new growth. Much like an autumnal tree releases its leaves to brave the chill of winter, I too found that I had to relinquish snippets of my past to embrace the fertile soil of new beginnings. I had constructed a life forged from resilience, buoyed on currents of change and acceptance, blooming under the weight of hardships once deemed insurmountable. In the half-light of a fading afternoon, I would reminisce about those tender years. The moonlit walks where whispered promises bounced off the stars, spinning tales of forever that danced just out of reach. And yet I realized forever is a myth spun from the delicate threads of hope and desire, fragile as gossamer. With time, I grew into the understanding that love is not merely a static entity clinging to the remnants of what once was, but instead an evolving narrative, interlaced with layers of experiences both beautiful and heartbreaking. People assume that moving on means forgetting, that the act of healing is synonymous with erasure. But it isn't. It is an acceptance, a recognition that the past, with all its richness and complexity, plays a crucial role in shaping who we are today. It reads like a tapestry, intricate and laced with threads of joy, heartache, laughter, and tears. Each moment holds significance, each shadow is a testament to growth. Among those shadows, the specter of first love lingered, occasionally whispering doubts into my ear, teasing the very edges of my resolve. Every day I found strength in my rituals, stirring coffee on sun-drenched mornings, writing in my journal as dusk wrapped the world in its soft embrace, pulling the curtains against the revelations of the past. These were not mere distractions but anchor points, grounding me in the present, allowing me to dream of the future without being overtaken by the tendrils of nostalgia. The corner of my eye would catch glimpses of what had been a laughter shared over pizza, the electric charge of young love. But I learned to look away, recognizing that the beauty of those moments lay in their ephemeral nature. The reverb of loss occasionally crashed against the shores of my consciousness, but with every rise and fall of that tide I found perspective. Clarity came with the realization that although some shadows may stretch long, they cannot extinguish the light. I had built more than mere walls. I had constructed a sanctuary, a fortress of self-knowledge and acceptance that fortified my spirit against the wind. My days, once punctuated by longing, began to weave a new pattern, vibrant and alive, infused with the promise of unexplored paths. Friendships blossomed, journeys unfolded in unexpected places. Beneath layers of uncertainty, I discovered love anew, forging connections that beckoned with the warmth of authenticity. Every new face brought with it a refreshing perspective, a novel texture on my skin, reinforcing the truth that life is a continual renaissance of self. Each encounter brought with it the unmistakable music of possibility, a reminder that life does not simply endure, it transforms. Yet even as I moved forward, the boy I once was still tugged gently at my heartstrings, a reminder that growth does not necessitate a severing from the past. The gentle echoes of first love offered sweet comfort, a reminder that all experiences, even those dipped in melancholy, contribute to the prism through which we view the world. There, in the folds of my lived experience, I discovered compassion, both for the boy who had once hoped for forever and for the man I was becoming, steadfast in the understanding that love must evolve if it is to endure. And so, the shadows grew fainter, receding to a background hum, no longer the overwhelming symphony they once had been. Each day brought lessons unlearnt and opportunities unfurling like petals in the dawn, an affirmation that while the past forms the thumbprint of our souls, it does not define our futures. Instead, it is the courage to step into the light, to dance in the glow of new experiences, that becomes the true testament to the resilience of the heart. In the grand tapestry of existence, moving beyond the past is not an act of disloyalty, but rather an homage to the journey, a celebration of how we learn to weather storms and emerge transformed. And as I turned my gaze forward, I felt the compelling rhythm of life calling me onward, beckoning me to embrace the symphony of the unknown, no longer shackled by the fading shadows of what had once been. A decade of silence hung thick in the air, the kind that stretches like a lengthy sigh, filled with the unspoken words of feelings left unsaid. Just when it seemed that the echoes of the past had faded into a comfortable obscurity, I received a message familiar yet foreign, like an old song that stirs forgotten emotions anew. It arrived on a cool autumn evening, its timing as unexpected as the chill that accompanied the setting sun, casting long shadows over the leaves that were just beginning their downward dance. The device illuminated briefly, revealing a name I had not uttered in years, a name that once held the power to ignite 1,000 memories, each one a piece of my heart etched in moments both sweet and bitter. I felt the weight of that name wash over me, a tide from a distant shore crashing onto the rocks of my settled life. It urged me to grapple with the complexities that had gathered in the recesses of my mind, leaving their fingerprints on my present as though the past had never genuinely released its hold on me. The message was simple: can we talk? It was like a crack in the dam, the past pushing against the thin veneer of my current existence. I hesitated at first, the moment stretching out infinitely, shadows of our history swirling around me. Would this encounter bring clarity or chaos? The thought danced wildly through my mind. 10 years had gone by, 10 years in which we had drifted on separate currents, sometimes watching the world pass through the lens of others, yet always tethered to a shared past that lingered like perfumed smoke in the air. I recalled the last time I had seen them, that excruciating farewell that felt less like an ending and more like a full stop yet to come. There had been tears, moments of passionate words shared beneath a starlit sky, our futures unfurling at our feet yet impossibly distant, fraying at the edges of our youthful optimism. It was a bittersweet resonance, threading its way through the years I'd spent building a new life, a life with its own challenges and joys, untouched by the ghost of what had once been. As I contemplated the invitation threaded with nostalgia, images flooded my mind like an old film reel. The way our fingers intertwined, the way laughter spilled effortlessly from our lips while secrets fluttered like leaves in the breeze. I recalled mundane moments too, the comfort of shared silence mixed with soft smiles, every heartbeat harmonizing with the rhythm of our youthful dreams. Yet entwined with these joyful recollections was an inescapable truth. Our parting was not merely a change of circumstances but a deliberate severing of ties. a necessity born from the growing chasm between who we were and who we needed to become. With each tick of the clock, the question echoed louder, why now? Had the years softened their memories, blurring the lines of faded love with tenderness? Or had they become an unsolved equation, seeking closure, a resolution that both of us may have evaded? The implications of our meeting twisted like ivy around my thoughts, pulling at both my longing and my resolve to keep the past buried. A message sent from yesterday often does not herald a simple conversation. It stirs the shadows of unhealed wounds and the unearthed skeletons of dreams that were never realized. As the hour approached, anticipation coiled in my chest, tight and electric. I began to wonder what return looked like after years of growth, unexplored paths, and the insistent tick-tock of time that had continued unabated. Would we be two people transformed, still entangled in the delicate strands of memory, or would we find ourselves strangers rekindling a flame, unprepared for the realization that life like a river had carved new channels in our hearts and minds? When we finally met, it was at a cafe enveloped in the warm glow of twilight, a haven of flickering candles and soft chatter that felt strangely intimate, almost conspiratorial. They walked in, that same familiar smile breaking through the years, drawing out a wistful smile from the corners of my mouth, even as skepticism lingered beneath the surface. So much of life had drifted between our last encounter and this moment. Yet despite the intertwining of new experiences and people, there remained a pulse of recognition, an intensity that neither time nor distance could extinguish. We spoke tentatively at first, our words hovering cautiously between us as though testing the waters of a long-forgotten ocean. Yet with each exchange, like peeling layers from an old wound, we began to reveal pieces of ourselves, stories of triumph and failure that had marked our separate journeys, reminders that our histories, though intertwined, had diverged drastically over time. As the conversation deepened, it became apparent that the question looming unspoken in the air was no longer just about what had been but about what could be. Did we still carry the embers of affection that once lit our hearts ablaze? Or had the years buried those coals in an avalanche of experiences, leaving in their wake a stark terrain, longing only for resolution? As shadows deepened around us, I realized that this wasn't merely a conversation with a ghost from my past, but a confrontation with my own narrative, a pause in time where I could rediscover not just fragments of them but of myself. In those moments I understood that the message from yesterday had not only returned an old flame but had opened the door to rethink my own journey. The allure of our shared past held undeniable power, yet so did the world I had forged in its absence. The delicate dance became not merely about rekindling old feelings, but about weaving the strands of who we had become, illuminating the paths we had taken. In the end, I grasped that sometimes the most profound messages aren't about seeking culmination but understanding, the understanding of what once was, what could still be, and the fullness of existence that lay ahead, demanding to be embraced, with or without the shadows of our past trails behind us. The night I heard from him again was a night burdened with the weight of 1,000 unspoken words, a night draped in shadows where nostalgia lingered like the faint scent of a forgotten cologne. The message came as a flicker, a pixelated reminder of a time when laughter flowed freely, capturing fleeting moments between youthful hopes and tentative first loves. It was simple, really. Just a note, a soft echo of decades past, carrying the bittersweet tones of reminiscence, yet wrapped in a new wrapping of uncertainty. "Can we talk?" he wrote, and in that moment the universe seemed to conspire to pull the past into the present like a moth drawn irresistibly to an old flame. The decision to confront the specter of that love, not just the person but the entire chapter of my life it represented, was not a hasty one. It felt like stepping onto a tightrope strung between the familiar cliff of what once was and the stark solidity of the ground I had fought so hard to pave since he last held my heart. I took a breath, the air thick with memories, each inhale saturated with the sense of youthful idealism and the salty tang of heartbreak. I had collected these fragments of experience like treasures, often revisiting them in quiet moments, remnants of laughter, the echo of shared dreams buried beneath responsibilities of adulthood. The recollections came alive with slow deliberation, as if eager to unfurl their beautiful pain beneath the spotlight of perspective, yet with an unsettling aura of drama that seemed to quicken my pulse. A part of me longed to dive back into those moments, to relive the innocent joy that yesterday promised. But just as swiftly, another part whispered of risks long considered and battles fought upright against the tide of nostalgia. Yet confronting old flames is a peculiar act. It teeters on the cusp of discovery and danger. Would I leave this meeting with my heart intact, or would I, in seeking closure or clarity, unearth feelings better left resting in the archives of a forgotten history? My heart trembled, the rhythm of each beat mirroring the tempest within, while the tapestry of our past threatened to unravel before my eyes. As I prepared for this rendezvous, memories stirred in a vivid tableau. The sunlit afternoons spent traipsing through sun-drenched parks, where time elongated and stretched into eternity. Each touch, each shared glance unspooled itself from the past like a film reel, presenting scenes awash in summer golden lights and emotional crescendos that lingered long after the credits rolled. The sound of his laughter was a music that danced and twirled, teasing my heart into a flutter of hope, igniting the kind of magic that reminds us all old flames are never truly extinguished. The setting for our reunion became a choice driven by the ghosts of nostalgia. We settled on that quirky cafe, the one we visited during our youthful escapades, where the smell of roasting coffee mingled with the hushed whispers of forgotten conversations. Nestled amidst eclectic decor, the walls closed in around what felt like a time capsule, each piece an emblem of the joy we once shared, now shadowed by a sense of unreality. The atmosphere thrummed with an unspoken tension. It echoed the unsaid between us. The weight of a decade of reality, the jagged edges of change hanging heavy in the air. He arrived and time collapsed in on itself. I surveyed him across the table, his features softened by age yet somehow anchored firmly by the familiarity of his essence. An unsettling mix of excitement and dread simmered near the surface, while the childhood joy that once propelled us forward stood in stark contrast to the adult complexities looming like specters. His presence was both a balm and a battle cry, transporting me back to sun-drenched memories while tearing at the walls I had carefully built. Each tentative conversation we tumbled into felt like stepping on a loose stone while crossing a river, momentarily steady, yet always on the brink of slipping back into the current of what had been. Our words wrapped around each other, lingering longer than necessary, as we reminisced about dreams that had filled our hearts long before life had dictated different paths. We shared laughter, stories, even a trace of vulnerability, fighting an urge to delve deeper into the silences. Those yawning chasms where words from yesteryears lay buried. But as I went deeper into the conversation, the realization dawned: time alters even the most potent love. What had once felt like a raging fire had softened to embers, glowing gently in the confines of memory. The intricacies of our lives now stood as monumental walls, full of regrets, triumphs, choices made and unmade. I could feel the pulse of opportunity surge, yet just behind it the ghost of doubt whispered caution. What defined us 10 years ago faded, overwritten by the complexity of our present selves and the distinct paths we had carved through lives lived fully, albeit separately. It became clear in those moments over coffee, there's a certain strength found in the acceptance of how one's perspective shifts. In confronting old flames, I was not just revisiting him. I was coming face to face with pieces of myself, my history, my growth. The dance of light and shadow where love once resided now illuminated the breadth of the journey taken. I had moved on, yes, learning to embrace the rich, agonizing beauty of heartbreak and the strength drawn from it, the remnants of past love woven into the tapestry of who I had become. As the hour waned and neither of us wished to end the exchange, our laughter echoed amongst the shattered dreams and rekindled words, perhaps signaling at last that the chapters turned could linger softly. In the backdrop of a life reborn anew, we were not the same, but in this intersection of history and change, healing could emerge even from the flickering embers of a once raging inferno. Time remains a formidable sculptor, yet in acknowledging our old flames, I realized we could find warmth without the consuming fire. Time has a peculiar rhythm, oscillating between the profound silence of memories and the cacophony of present realities. As I stand on the precipice of what was and what is, I can feel the tidal pull of emotion surge within me. Each heartbeat resonates with the echoes of laughter shared long ago, juxtaposed against the whispers of new beginnings. It is a dance of hesitations, a compelling struggle between the embrace of nostalgia and the clarity of a future I have painstakingly crafted. There was a moment, unexpected and raw, when the past slipped through the cracks of my meticulously constructed facade. A singular message sparked like a lightning bolt, illuminating the remnants of a love lost but never truly extinguished. A name etched deeply in the fabric of my heart, woven with threads of shared dreams and cherished moments. Memories flooded in sun-drenched afternoons spent exploring the sunlit pathways of youth, impromptu adventures that painted our lives in technicolor, and the ineffable joy of being seen and understood by another soul. Each recollection a wave, rising and falling as I stood knee-deep in this emotional tide. Yet as the surf retreats, it leaves behind not just echoes but also remnants, grains of sand that whisper of past melodies dulcet and haunting. I can almost hear the distant laughter by the riverbank where we carved our names into the bark of an ancient tree, a silent witness to our promises. It all felt so poignant, so real, and yet here I am cloaked in the armor of time's passage, standing apart from that youthful exuberance, forever changed by the currents of life's complexities. And there lies the heart of the matter. How does one reconcile such stark contrasts? Emotions, those tempestuous tides swirl within and crash against the walls I've built. I thought I had moved on, yet with each heartbeat there's an undeniable pull, a yearning that simmered beneath the surface. Is it regret? A longing to fulfill a chapter left unfinished? Or perhaps a mere curiosity, a thin thread tying me back to an inconceivable possibility? Standing at this crossroads, I find myself grappling with these questions, each one weaving a narrative more compelling than the last. Memories play tricks. They morph into idealized portraits framed in sepia tones. I remember moments of connection so vividly that they are almost tangible. The warmth of his hand in mine, the softness of his voice merging seamlessly with the melody of an unseen orchestra. In those fleeting seconds, time felt elastic, stretching and bending to accommodate our dreams, as if the universe conspired to keep us tethered together if only for a while. But with every reminiscence comes a bout of introspection. What did I trade in exchange for the ebb and flow of our shared story? The innocence of youth, the reckless abandon that comes with unbridled love. Or simply the illusion of a future together that we built upon wishes and whispers. As I stand here, I can't help but feel the ocean tide of doubt lapping at my heels, the hesitant footprints I leave behind juxtaposed against the firm, unfaltering path I forged in his absence. There is, after all, beauty in moving forward, a necessity crafted from the shards of heartbreak and disappointment. I have reached a place where the scars of yesterday no longer bleed but serve as reminders, the tangible proof of resilience, testimony to battles fought in the quiet corners of my soul. Yet still, as the whispers beckon, I am reminded of the tender moments shared, the sweet fleeting breaths of what was. There's an undercurrent to this nostalgia, a disquiet that trails the specter of my first love. It gnaws gently, almost insidiously, at the resolve I've built over the last decade. Uncertainty is a curious aspect of human nature, a reflection of our desires layered in complexities. I ponder, do I hold on to the past as a safeguard against the unknown, or do I allow it to drift away, a leaf upon the river, charting a course I've yet to navigate? With each heartbeat that echoes in my chest, I find myself standing on the precipice of a choice without the clarity I once revered. The past calls to me softly, but is that an invitation or a warning? There's irony in this dance, a battle within my heart, testing the boundaries of love and the chaotic reality of moving forward. Would reigniting that flame bring warmth back into my life, or would it simply ignite a conflagration, consuming everything I've worked so hard to build? In this moment of reckoning, the gentle tide washes over me in comforting rhythm, a promise that the world is vast and filled with possibilities. The heart, fickle yet strong, beats its intricate song. With each pulse I am reminded of my own truths, of the lessons learned amidst the chaos, of the love I've nurtured and the dreams I still dare to dream. To linger too long in yesterday is to deny the beautiful, chaotic reality of what lies ahead. Yet the memorized melody of our past remains a seductive tune. Ensnared in its harmony, the hesitations rise like foam upon the waves, ephemeral yet potent. I must grapple with these heartbeats and hesitations, not as the enemies of my progress, but as integral parts of my story. Reminders that love in all its forms is a lesson in itself. As I heed the call of new beginnings, I realize that the power to choose rests within me. To embrace the past, to acknowledge its influence, but not let it shackle my present. The tides may be tumultuous, but within their dance I shall find my own rhythm. The heartbeat that will guide me towards the light in the life still waiting to be embraced. In the stillness of an unyielding evening, the weight of 10 years bore down upon me like the anchor of a ship, weathered by time's relentless march. Each moment intertwined with a tapestry of choices made, the crisp memories echoing through the quarters of my heart, beckoning me to revisit the paths I had once chosen. It was in this solitude, a sanctuary of reflection, that I began to unravel the intricate knots of my past, navigating the tumultuous waters of love and loss through the lens of choices made and paths taken. Life is a ceaseless journey of decisions, each one carving out the very essence of who we are. As I sat with the echoes of laughter and whispered promises, I couldn't help but wonder where I might have strayed had I chosen differently. The allure of what-ifs danced tantalizingly at the edges of my thoughts. What if I had fought harder, reached deeper into the recesses of affection we once shared, instead of allowing hurt and pride to sever the threads binding us together? In those moments of contemplation, a tapestry of what could have been unfurled before me, vibrant and rich but ultimately rooted in fiction. I was reminded of our late-night conversations, fiery discussions fueled by dreams and ambitions tangled within youthful exuberance. The world once shimmered with possibility in our eyes, igniting a sense of infinite adventure. Yet an inevitable divergence loomed in the shadows, weaving itself into our fabric. It is easy to recall those early days suspended in time, where innocence kissed every word and action, where love felt like the sun at dawn, pure and untainted. However, bitterness crept in as life's complexities unfolded. Choices were made, some out of fear, others from a misguided sense of pride, that steered us down separate, solitary avenues. Doubt became a specter haunting our bond. I chose to bury my insecurities beneath layers of distance, cloaking vulnerability beneath a veneer of strength. But in that cocoon of bravado, the warmth of our connection slowly withered, turning into a cautious dance of interactions. When I think back to that pivotal moment, the last conversation before we parted ways, years washed over me like waves upon the shore, rhythmic and unyielding. With a few reckless words and a promise unfulfilled, I severed what had once felt unbreakable. It was a choice fueled by the fear of vulnerability, the choice of a path I believed to be the lesser evil, one paved with self-preservation. Yet life is rarely neat, and paths often intertwine in ways we cannot anticipate. For every action there is a reaction, and as I went on to carve out my destiny, I left fragments of us scattered in the air, delicate remnants of a love that had flourished then floundered. Choosing to embrace singularity, I discovered strength in myself I hadn't known existed, a treasure unearthed through solitude. I built walls tall and formidable to guard my heart, using them as fortifications against the turbulent storms of nostalgia. But even those formidable walls could not keep out the quiet nudges of remembrance, an old photograph, a familiar scent, a melody that brought forth a rush of feelings I thought were buried. Reflecting upon those years, I discovered a profound irony. Moving on was not merely a choice, but a journey riddled with echoes of the past. As I ventured toward new horizons, I carried the weight of old love like a faint whisper in my ear, reminding me of the scars that shaped my path, and yet also the lessons learned along the way. The tapestry of my existence was woven together not just by the choices I had embraced, but also by the paths I had eschewed. Still, one question lingered like an unanswered prayer. Was my journey one of true liberation, or had I merely masked the pain of unresolved love? It was in this fervent reflection that I recognized the tempest brewing in my heart, the delicious tension that arises from longing, mingled with resolute determination. As that evening descended into twilight, enveloping me in its veil of uncertainty, I contemplated the return of the past. The unexpected message, a virtual specter of days gone by, acted as both a haunting reminder and a fresh canvas upon which to paint new narratives. What does it mean to embrace the past while simultaneously stepping into a new chapter? The echoes of choices made and paths taken entwined my very being, intertwining the fabric of who I had become with the whispers of who I could have been. Reality is often layered, a canvas of contrasts splashed with the colors of regret, joy, and everything in between. As I navigated the labyrinth of reflection, it became clear to me. It was not just the destination of our journeys that mattered, but the footprints we left behind, the lessons learned, the tears shed, and the loves cherished. In the end, the choices we make are mere brushstrokes on the expansive canvas of life, each moment contributing to the masterpiece that is uniquely ours. It is this realization that calls me to embrace the weight of my past, without allowing it to dictate my present. I have traveled through the shadows, lingered long enough to learn, and emerged with a blend of nostalgia and strength, recognizing that moving forward does not erase the past. Rather, it honors the intricate dance of choices that have led me to this moment. And as the fabric of my life continues to unfold, I am ready to embrace the future, fortified by the lessons embedded in the journey of my heart. A decade has sculpted my memories into ethereal forms, dancing with a haunting beauty that surpasses the grid of reality. In this space, untouched by the passage of time, stands the glass castle, a creation of youthful dreams, shimmering like diaphanous dreams woven in tender adolescence. Here, walls of glimmering glass refract visions of what once was, distorting the past through the prism of nostalgia. Each shard of memory glints, inviting me to reach out and grasp the sanctity of my first love, to embrace it as once I did, before the weight of the world's sorrow smudged the clarity of its brilliance. As I traverse the halls of this fragile edifice, everything feels pristine, unblemished by the footfalls of reality, the echoes of laughter twirling in the air. I remember afternoons spent in soft sunlight, the air thick with innocence and possibility, where time paused to admire our delight. With every laugh shared, every whispered secret, we built a sanctuary, an ethereal realm where we could escape the clamoring demands of the outer world. Yet now, the castle stands not as a mildewed monument to youth's naive exuberance, but as a mirror reflecting the bittersweet potency of idealization. A fantasy I once cherished, now soaked in poignant sorrow. But what lies within those shimmering walls is both enchanting and deceptive, the allure of the glass castle masking the cracks beneath its polished surface. I walk through a gallery of memories, where the smiles of yesterday betray the fragmented heartaches lurking just beyond the threshold of eye-watering laughter. We were artists painting our dreams with the brightest hues, yet our canvases bore the streaks of shadows, moments left unsaid, feelings unacknowledged. In this delicate architecture of past hopes and dreams, each reflection serves as a reminder of the frailty inherent in our carefully constructed illusions, revealing how easily they can shatter. In the reminiscence of falling leaves and the scent of warm summer rain, I am whisked away to times when our love felt impenetrable, an intoxicating embrace, woven tightly with the naive assurance that it would endure the spirals of time. Who could have imagined that the idyllic images of our shared youth would evolve into mere echoes, reverberating against the backdrop of my present life? The glass castle with its intoxicating charm leads me to question, is memory an ally or a foe? Does it bolster our spirits or does it lead us astray, ensnared by the allure of an idealized past? Reflection is a peculiar lens through which to view love. It clouds perceptions, casting golden filters over unresolved emotions. I begin to examine the fibers of that long-lost relationship with surgical precision, peeling back the layers of romanticism, to uncover a reality fraught with the folly of youth. There were moments of pure joy, yes, yet they mingled with a fear of the inevitable, the shadows gathering even then, silent omens of the storm to come. With the clarity of years gone by, I can now see that, in our youthful exuberance, we believed love to be a fortress impenetrable by the realities of adulthood. Foolishly, we dared to challenge the tides of change. And there, in the soft hues of twilight, I find myself reconciling with the love that exists in these reflections. The laughter, the spark, the intimacy that filled our glass castle with its own heartbeat. Yet this romanticized version whispers sweetly in my ear. I must confront the truth of my feelings, for buried deep underneath the layers of joy are the currents of hurt, the burdens of expectations unfulfilled, two souls too entwined to fully exist as individuals. The glass through which we viewed each other was not merely reflective. It refracted, splintering our perceptions, distorting what we thought we understood about love in its purest form, its imperfections woven into the very fabric of our essence. As the waves of reflection recede, they unearth deeper revelations of versatility. Memories meld with lessons learned, reshaping the narrative that once held me captive. Each heartbeat in the glass castle reveals the bittersweet taste of what was, a testament to growth and realization. It compels me to acknowledge the dichotomy of love. Within its embrace lies both freedom and constriction. I can no longer dwell only within the realm of what once was. The windows of that castle, while beautiful, cast shadows that lead nowhere but back into the dark waters of nostalgia. This is the journey the heart must embark on, a pilgrimage through the loamy earth of recollection, harvesting truths, sifting through the detritus of idealized romance. There lay the crumbled remnants of young promises littered like the forgotten objects of a past long lost to time. Beneath the enchanting decorum of our memories there exists an undeniable current, that love in all its radiance cannot be imprisoned behind glass. Instead, it finds purpose through evolution, a complexity not free from pain but marked by it, capable of growth and regeneration. Standing within the glass castle, I will not allow myself to be consumed by the gleam of nostalgia. Instead, the whispers of what I once felt now echo within the chambers of my heart, imbuing me with the strength to let go, transforming the castle from a prison into a sacred space of understanding. In bringing the past into the light of my present, I weave anew the threads of my life, thus creating a tapestry that honors my experiences, both joyous and painful. I recognize my first love for the profound teacher it was, a formative part of my existence, but I embark on a new path, one where the shadows of the glass castle yield to the vibrant colors of what lies ahead, waiting to be crafted with each breath. In the quiet moments that linger between dusk and dawn, when the world succumbs to a gentle slumber, I often find myself at the crossroads of desire, a battleground where the ghosts of yesteryears whisper faint regrets and vibrant possibilities into the ether. The air is thick with nostalgia, as palpable as the scent of rain-soaked earth curling through the crevices of memory. Here, at this intersection of what once was and what is, I stand, a solitary figure torn between the chains of the past and the beckoning allure of an unwritten future. Time, they say, has a curious way of distorting reality, morphing what was into something utterly unrecognizable or even more enchanting than it ever was. I remember the fervor of young love, the wide-eyed naivety that accompanied every stolen glance and fervent whisper. The summers spent beneath star-studded skies, our laughter echoing off the treetops as we crafted dreams with the careless abandon of youth. What once felt eternal has now been rewritten in sepia tones, memories fading yet holding a shimmering quality that glistens just beyond my reach. Yet now, standing before the choice with the warmth of those recollections clinging tightly to my heart, I feel a burgeoning tension, like the taut string of a bow, ready to release its arrow at the slightest touch. My first love, a spectral presence that once colored my days and infused storms into my nights, has resurfaced, plunging me headlong into a whirlpool of emotions I thought long submerged. The letter arrived unexpectedly, its paper weathered, imbued with the weight of all those years, 10 crystalline years, where silence reigned and life spun its intricate web around me, creating a new reality that felt both alien and familiar. In this unexpected correspondence, a myriad of emotions collide: excitement, fear, and the unsettling realization that despite the passage of time, some feelings lie dormant, waiting patiently for their moment to resurrect. Yet each heartbeat reminds me of the life I've shaped in the interim. New relationships forged on the anvil of trust and companionship, laughter echoed in different yet equally profound ways, and a self-discovery that flowed effortlessly amid the mundane and the extraordinary. I have walked new paths, traversing landscapes of possibility that never seemed within reach in those hallowed years of my youth. What becomes clearer amidst this conflux of past and present is that love in its essence is a mosaic of choices, each piece reflecting different shades of desire and yearning. The question lingers, pregnant with urgency: am I prepared to cast aside the reality I have painstakingly constructed? to dismantle the walls I have painstakingly built, brick by brick, to let in the specters of yesterday. The tug of the past, ignited by the rekindled flame of an old affection, dances tantalizingly on the edges of my consciousness. I think back to the moments captured in waxen stillness, the secrets whispered beneath the canvas of twilight, the warmth of hands interlaced, the passion that surged through us like a tempest, wild and unyielding. Each memory is a brushstroke on the canvas of my heart, impossible to erase, yet equally impossible to recreate. What is it that compels me to revisit this terrain rife with the shadows of uncertainty? Is it the allure of nostalgia or a genuine yearning for the connection we once shared? As I grapple with this internal conflict, I reflect upon the spaces these emotions inhabit. Those what-if moments that linger like stubborn smoke in the corners of a room. What if we had stayed together? What if our paths had not diverged? The heart, it seems, has a way of romanticizing the past, sculpting it into an idealized replica of what we wish it had been. Yet reality resides not in ideals but in tangible experiences. A fairground ride of laughter and tears, triumphs and failures, joy intermingled with heartache. The air crackles with an energy that feels almost electric, as if the universe itself is holding its breath, waiting for my next move. Will I succumb to the temptation of an old flame's promise, or remain anchored in the safer harbor of my carefully curated present? The needle of time spins furiously, its rhythmic flicker creating a dichotomy of hope and despair, urging me to act while simultaneously shackling me with fear. The tension mounts, sweet yet suffocating, inviting yet intimidating, drawing me into a vortex of reflection. In this realm of liminal space, nostalgia and reality intertwine, creating a tapestry of complex emotions. I feel the weight of past loves mingling with present choices, forming an intricate dance that is both thrilling and terrifying. How does one navigate these choppy waters, struck by the haunting melody of what once was while striving to maintain sight of what is? It's a delicate choreography, an audacious waltz through an emotional landscape that reveals the dichotomy of love, its relentless persistence, the haunting tug of shared histories, and yet a reminder that everything we cherish in the past was a fleeting moment, a snapshot in the grand narrative of our lives. At this crossroads of desire, I realize that to move forward, I must first carefully sift through the echoes of my past. I must confront the echoes, decipher the whispers, and uncover the truths buried deep within. With each passing moment, as the decision looms overhead, it becomes increasingly clear that this isn't merely a choice between two versions of love. It is an exploration of self. It is a journey into the depths of my heart where intertwining roads can either converge, igniting a flame, or separate, forever guiding me onward toward horizons yet unseen. The past may call like a siren, but it is the weight of the present that anchors me, manifesting a glimmer of hope for the future that awaits. The moment hung thickly in the air, a palpable tension that swayed my heart like the gentle rustle of autumn leaves caught in a bitter wind. Here I was, standing at the threshold of nostalgia and longing, burdened by the specter of a love that dared to rear its head once more after 10 years of silence. The weight of the past pressed against my chest, igniting a tempest of emotions within me. It wasn't merely a recollection of shared laughter or stolen kisses. It was the ghosts of unfulfilled promises, the haunting echoes of what could have been. The specter of my first love had arrived anonymously, wrapped in the familiar, unabated warmth of memory, but simultaneously mingled with the deliberate chill of a life rebuilt without them. In the quiet corners of my heart, I had painstakingly constructed a sanctuary wrought from new love, each cornerstone a memory of unanticipated joy, each wall a testament to scars once healed. Yet, as these memories collided with the return of an old flame, I found myself navigating the uncharted waters of an emotional dilemma, the delicate interplay between what was and what is. The heart is a treacherous guide, a traitor and a protector, oscillating between the siren call of yesteryear and the steady compass pointing towards the future. I could almost see it clearly. That moment we'd last intertwined, the intensity that had coursed through our veins like wildfire, the sweetness of youthful idealism interlaced with a painful naivety. And now, a decade later, we were both strangers to one another and yet achingly familiar, each carrying the stories of our lives etched into our very beings. I pondered the implications of this unexpected visitation. Imagine, I mused, what had transpired in the chasms of time we both occupied. What triumphs had filled their yearbook of life, what griefs had sculpted the contours of their heart. Yet my thoughts danced gravely around the impact of their reappearance on my carefully curated existence. The new love that had blossomed in the open spaces of my heart was vibrant, a reminder that even in life's ebb and flow, possibility endured. They were a gentle stream, flowing readily beside me, compelling yet unobtrusive, a soothing balm against the sharp stab of nostalgia. We had crafted a connection woven from the threads of shared aspirations, laughter that echoed with authenticity, and moments that felt in their own right suffused with potential. But how does one honor a new relationship when shadows of the past flit like fireflies, illuminating parts of the heart that yearn for warmth? It's a delicate act of balancing, a tightrope walk between wistfulness and moving forward, where the heart plays both conductor and audience to the symphony of relationships past and present. Each note reverberated with questions unbidden. Would revisiting those golden days unravel the tapestry I had spent years weaving, or could it coexist, nestled among fresh strands awaiting its turn in the loom of my life's narrative? The morning I received that message, a mere thread of communication, I felt the walls of my sanctuary tremble ever so slightly. The "how are yous" were small but powerful, a gentle nudge at the dam of history that I had thought was solid. Don't they understand, I pondered, that the past often wears a facade, that it entices with stories crafted in the light, yet holds darkness behind its curtain, twisting the memories into bittersweet echoes? Answers turned into questions. Was I still the person they once knew? Had they changed as I had? And most importantly, within the bloom of new love, was there a place for these old ghosts to linger, whispering secrets of our shared past? It became apparent that this crossroad lay not just in the physical but in the emotional landscapes we both faced. To confront my past was to confront the vulnerability of my very essence, an unsettling consideration that tugged at my mind like relentless waves upon a sun-bleached shore. The ebb of time had crafted me, each year shaping the contours of my identity. But with their return, the juxtaposition of my experiences against those memories felt like a sudden thunderstorm rolling in after a placid day, intense and electrifying, capable of storming through everything I had built. Consequently, there arose a question, one that tethered me to the moment. How does one embrace the beautiful, vibrant life they currently live while affectionately acknowledging the tender, familiar ghosts that still roam the corridors of their past? There's an implication that allowing love to bloom anew necessitates a closure of sorts, an acceptance of bygone chapters without erasing them entirely. Yet, was that truly possible? Could past love exist side by side with present affection, without either diminutive or eclipsing the other? To reconcile these crisscrossing paths, I imagined a reconciliation soiree, a gathering of both souls, the present and past meeting in an ethereal dance of understanding. What if the warmth of my new love could coexist with the fond recognition of who we were? A celebration rather than a confrontation of everything we had learned from those bittersweet lessons of youth. This realization gave rise to new courage, a willingness to explore, to breathe life into the past while nurturing the present, recognizing that perhaps love was more capacious than I had ever given it credit for. However, it falters before the reality of choice. Choices demand resolution, decisions that carve paths into the unyielding earth. Old flames beckon with a siren's call, while new love offers quiet comfort, a gentle embrace that speaks of now, urging me to cherish that which lies in front of me. The heart wrestles fiercely within, caught amidst waves of what-ifs and what-nows. I could linger on these turbulent emotions, lose myself within their depths, or I could summon the strength to make a choice rooted in awareness, acceptance, and growth. Thus came the quiet realization that, in the end, love is often not a linear journey. Instead, it is a winding road filled with intersections, where each love leaves its indelible mark upon the soul. A tapestry elegantly frayed but ultimately resilient. The heart's dilemma is not merely to choose between old ghosts and new beginnings, but to embrace the entirety of the experience, to gather those bittersweet memories like petals falling from a once blossomed flower, each color brightening the next chapter of a life unfolding. Here, nestled in this embrace of choices, I found within the tumult a profound truth. I had indeed moved on, but it was this journey through the labyrinth of love that still filled me with awe. The air hung heavy with the weight of nostalgia, a fragrant melange of bittersweet memories and unuttered promises. It had been 10 years since the last page of that chapter was turned, yet here they stood, two souls intertwined by the fickle threads of time, facing the phantom past that had arrived on the doorstep, uninvited yet inexplicably familiar. Yet in that moment, amidst the flickering shadows of their shared history, an undeniable clarity began to dawn. Closure, so often chased yet rarely attained, now glimmered like a distant lighthouse, guiding them through the tempest of emotions. It was a dance performed silently, a ritual of acknowledgement where words felt too cumbersome to utter. There was a palpable tension in the space between them, a magnetic pull that threatened to unravel the fragile constructs they had spent years weaving. The familiarity of old laughter played like an echo in the recesses of their minds, each note laced with a wistfulness that begged exploration. Yet woven through their reunion was the understanding that their lives had moved on, a simultaneous tug-of-war between the comfort of shared history and the inevitable march toward new beginnings. As they meandered through memory's corridors, the recollections came flooding back, vivid and swirling like autumn leaves caught in a whimsical breeze. The laughter shared on sun-drenched afternoons, the whispered dreams under the blanket of midnight stars, the unfulfilled promises of youth, each was a thread in the tapestry they had woven together. It was a narrative filled not only with the typical joys of first love, but also heart-wrenching heartbreak and profound lessons learned. That chapter had been written in indelible ink, its imprint carved into their hearts like a bittersweet sonnet. Yet the intricate dance of closure demanded a reckoning. Acceptance was not merely an act of conceding to fate, it was a powerful declaration of self-awareness. With each inhalation, they began disentangling themselves from the shackles of history, recognizing that while their past was a sacred space, it could not dictate their future. Each pause in their conversation held a mirrored reflection of their journeys, two streams diverging away from a common origin, flowing toward horizons untamed and rich with potential. In the recesses of their minds, they grappled with myriad emotions that lay strewn about like forgotten relics, anger, joy, despair, and hope, each demanding recognition, each a vital piece of the puzzle. The realization began to take root. They were but tourists in each other's hearts, exploring familiar landscapes now colored by years apart. The scars of the past whispered tales of lessons learned, intertwined with the resilience that both had cultivated in the pursuit of their individual paths. Yet amidst the fragments of unhealed wounds, there was a burgeoning strength in vulnerability. To lay one's heart bare before another was a formidable act of courage, an acknowledgement not of weakness but of growth. The lingering hesitation in their exchanges reflected not merely lingering affection, but a recognition of the lives they had led separately, forging identities no longer bridged solely by shared history. The understanding became crystalline. They had become architects of their own destinies, each carving unique portraits from the clay of their experiences. As the sun dipped slowly toward the horizon, casting a golden hue over their conversation, the conversation opened further, slowly peeling back layers that had remained untouched for far too long. There was a palpable shift in the air, affirming that this was not simply a revisitation of what once was, but rather a sacred opportunity for new beginnings. With each shared story, the barriers built from hurt and bitterness began to dissolve, replaced instead by a renewed respect for the journeys they had traversed. They spoke of dreams unfulfilled and goals realized, weaving both their current realities and ambitious aspirations into the fabric of their dialogue. In the gentle cadence of their words, a harmony began to emerge, one that mirrored the pulse of two hearts evolving yet growing closer, not through expectations of the past but through the promise of tomorrow. The terrain of rebirth is often rocky, Yet with the dawning of acceptance comes an untamed freedom, the liberating realization that genuine love transcends the bounds of old emotions, evolving into something deeper, something transformative. In letting go of the burdens entwined in unrequited longings, they discovered within themselves the strength to step forward, each step lighter than the last, each heartbeat resonating with a newfound hope. In the ephemeral silence that ensued, a symphony of possibilities unfurled. They stood no longer entangled in yesterday's embrace, but rather hand in hand, poised on the brink of an unfolding narrative filled with uncertainty yet rich with promise. With each heartbeat they made a choice, to welcome the future not as a shadow of the past, but as a vibrant living canvas awaiting their strokes of creativity and courage. The full circle of their reunion was not a return to a bygone era, but was a heartfelt embrace of growth, a celebration of the journeys that had brought them back together in this poignant moment. Together, they would step forward, taking the lessons of their past not as remnants but as cherished mementos imbued with wisdom. With gratitude, they acknowledged their shared history, recognizing that love has many forms and that true connection is forged not just in passion but in understanding, acceptance, and the courage to embrace a new beginning.